Just stand in front of the plaza, look over to your left, and there you will see them, Valley Motors in Clayton. You can give them a call on 6431 and you can WhatsApp them or call them on that number, 6431 0419. That's Valley Motors.
Vale Motors.
Escucha Cool FM 89.3 con la música más refrescante en su radio.
Cool FM.
You are listening to The Breakfast Show, 89.3 Cool FM 24, coming down for 24 and a half minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. It is Thursday, and he is available. Yes, he is. Apparently, that's what he tells all the women. Dr. Computer Alex Newman with us here on The Breakfast Show. Well, don't say that, Alex. No?
Not at all. Not since, I don't know, about 10 years ago. So, no.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Hey, I have been seeing you popping up on my TV screen.
Oh, I guess there's something you can do about that. Maybe switch providers or.
So, yeah, what are you doing? What is it you're doing on TV? You're doing a techie section?
Well, I'm going to be on RPC. That's Channel 4, starting next month, and it's going to be cool. Every Thursday night, I'm going to be talking about technology, picking a subject every week, and just teching the stuff out of it. Just talking about the news, talking about people making and breaking the news. And, bringing that to people all over. And it's going to be on TV and also on the Medcom Go app. So watch out for that.
Excellent. Because now the Medcom Go app, because I don't think I've got that. What do you have to subscribe to for that?
Oh, just, the usual. Just give them an email they can get a hold of you at, and you're set. So you can... Okay. Watch all the TV that you miss. You can watch it on the Medcom Go app, and you can also share that to your TV. So even if you're not in a place where you can be reached by the TV signal, if you have an internet connection, and you're going to be able to use it. And the fun part is some people are getting Starlink in a couple of months, maybe. So that's going to be interesting to see how people can move.
Starlink?
That's Elon Musk's internet service that's going to be using low Earth orbit satellites. It's kind of like cell phone data service, but instead of you moving around and the antennas being fixed, it's going to be the other way around. You're going to be fixed, and the antennas are going to be moving above you all the time.
Okay, I mean, is that something that one would look at as instead of a provider, or?
Only if you're in an area where your local provider isn't too good, which unfortunately that's a lot of Panama. But you can use it as your main provider. You do have to realize that latency is going to be a little higher. I think it's been measured as low as 20 milliseconds, but it might be just a little higher. So it will make for a little bit of getting used to with the delay. I mean, we are kind of spoiled. Our communication right now is pretty much instantaneous. It's like, being in front of you, but it's going to be a little bit delayed, like, a fraction of a second, but we humans are used to not having a fraction of a second delay when we talk. So it's going to get some getting used to, kind of like what it was using Skype maybe 10, 15 years ago, something like that. But otherwise, it's going to be pretty good.
Okay. One of the things we want to talk about today, because it sort of popped up on my phone, purely by chance, because we had a segment on the news about it the other day, and that is this Protect Panama app for the COVID-19. And I just happened to say to Christina, oh, by the way, on the news tomorrow, we got this segment about this, and I literally just turned on my phone, and it came up on my phone in English, okay, and asking me if I wanted to download it. Now, of course, I have an Android phone, so you have to download it from the Play Store. But what amazed me was that it just popped up on my phone and asked me if I wanted to download it. How did that work?
Well,
That's cheeky.
first of all, speaking of Christina, I would like to say a very happy birthday to Christina.
Thank you very much. That's very
Oh,
nice. Thank
yeah. So the thing is, yeah, it did pop up not only on Android phones, but also on your beloved Apple devices as
you. Yeah, I
well.
think that was almost sort of built into Apple, wasn't it? You didn't have to download it; you just had to activate it.
That is correct. The Google approach was a tad different. You do have to download something additional, but it does work with the operating system. And it works on pretty much the same principles that we talked about during the first half of 2020, when
Mhm.
a group of young Panamanians, which, if I recall correctly, we even interviewed.
I think we did.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and what it does is it uses the Bluetooth on your phone. You know how when you walk away over 2 meters from your phone or your device, and the Bluetooth starts getting not, it gets weird and it stops working properly. That's because
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth was designed to work at distances of about 2 meters. If you have some Bluetooth device that works at a distance of over 2 meters, it's just a testament of how good the antennas and the sensitivity of the devices has improved over the years. But it's designed mainly for short range communication. And what it does is it generates a random number and assigns it to your device. And when you receive this application, it just pings every hour or so, just to see what other devices are nearby every couple of minutes. And if you've been in the same vicinity as another Bluetooth device, let's say, for example, Yasmin's phone, it will make a record of that, not of who Yasmin is or what her phone serial number is or anything like that, just that there was one device nearby for over a certain amount of time and in a certain vicinity, so that if you share your COVID diagnosis, let's say, God forbid you get diagnosed with COVID, you can share the diagnosis with the application or the setting in your iPhone. And what that will do is notify all the owners of the devices that were near you in a certain amount of time and let them know, hey, you may have been exposed to somebody who now has the disease. So that you can take precautions like taking a test or isolating yourself for a couple of days to see if you develop any symptoms or whatever. It's all done very privately. Of course, the source code for most of this has not been shared publicly, but the specifications for the interface between your phone and the applications have. And so far, I have not read any reports saying that your information is being leaked in any way. So it's generally, I'd say it's generally reasonable to trust. And thus, I've installed it on my phones. So both the Android and the iPhone that I have. I do have one phone that will probably never have that pop up for any reason, and that's my Huawei phone because it doesn't have the Google services. So if you're worried about things like your privacy or whatever, it's a concern that I don't share, but I respect. And you could just get a Huawei phone and it won't pop up, or you can just not use the application. That being said, I would wholeheartedly recommend using the application in the sense
Well, the
that
whole thing, Alex, surely depends on the number of people that actually subscribe to it. Because if you're next to
exactly,
somebody that's got COVID and they haven't subscribed, you're never going to know. Um,
exactly,
and I think
exactly.
just to tell her, you don't have to do anything. Once it's installed, it just runs in the background, and it's not something you have to check up on. It's something that if you have some kind of exposure, or they want to give you a message, it will just tell you. You don't have to. The app just runs in the background on its own. What about battery use, Alex? Will that use any battery?
One of the great things about Bluetooth is that it was designed with low power consumption in mind. That's why your Bluetooth headset probably has a better battery life than previous technologies. And the second thing is that it doesn't ping constantly. It does so only at a few minutes intervals. So it doesn't really drain your battery as much as just flipping through Instagram does, for example. It doesn't turn your screen on. It doesn't do anything with Wi-Fi or your data connection or anything. It just sits there passively, just sipping power and not draining your battery. So it's something that I wholeheartedly recommend because, like you said, until you have what's called a critical mass, a number of people using the application, the advantage is lessened. Kind of like what happened, you remember way back when Waze started. I believe we even interviewed someone many, many years ago regarding how at the time Waze was nearing 10,000 users, and they were kind of needing to have at least twice that many in a city the size of Panama for the traffic reports to actually make a difference and for the traffic data to be really useful. Nowadays, it's really, really useful because you don't only have the live data from all the users of Waze, you also have historical data so that even if nobody's driving at a certain street or whatever on a certain day, you have historical data to back that up and make reasonable assumptions of what the best route would be. In this case, since you only have random identifiers, you can't really make something like a diagram of where people are or hotspots are for infection or whatever, which would be useful. But since there are privacy concerns, what you can graph and what you can do is just numbers of connecting people being in the same presence as other people in a very limited fashion. It does help a lot. It doesn't really infringe on people's privacy or anything like that. It's completely voluntary, but it would be very useful and has been. For example, we did interview Audrey Tang from the Taiwan Ministry of Technology, and I believe that one of the things that was mentioned that helped a lot in contact tracing was the use of technology, in this case, applications that help you know if you were in proximity with somebody so that your risk can be mitigated. So,
I mean, and tell me, Alex, because this is a system which was developed jointly with Google and with Apple. But this information, when it's pinging around, how is that information moved around? Is it just between those two phones? There must be, I guess it goes onto a cloud somewhere, or how does that work?
The only moment it does go to the cloud is when you have some sort of a diagnosis made. And if that diagnosis incorporates your random identifier, then you get some data back from Apple or Google saying, hey, take precautions, you may have been exposed. Otherwise, there's no other transmission of information going on, either between you and the other person, or you and Apple, or you or Google. It's basically just a very passive ping that happens from time to time in order to help you prevent the spread. But that's it. There's no information being exchanged. There's no information regarding like your phone's serial number or your iCloud account or your Google account or anything. That there's nothing to tie you to that. And you can always opt out at any point.
Okay. All right, just to give you an example, I've just opened the app on my phone. And I guess this app, because it automatically came on my phone in English, I guess it's in English and Espanol.
It is. It is. It will depend on what your phone is set to, in the sense that, let's say you were, let's say a citizen of another country visiting Panama or working in Panama for some time or whatever. It will pop up in your phone's language, and it will help you in that language. And the only information that will be shared with the Ministry of Health is the amount of people that are using it, any diagnostics made or whatever. So there's no real possibility of information leaking. I've heard a lot of people, bad mouthing the application, saying, I don't want a certain political party to know where I am. Most of the time, those people, I mean, not even their own family probably cares, where they are at any point. But one of the consequences of isolation and mandatory curfews and things like that is that people get paranoid. It's
Mm.
actually even being studied right now. So if you think that the lockdown is making you crazy, you're not crazy. You're crazy.
Mm. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big thing, and I really hope they're going to give enough attention to the mental health problems that this has, probably brought up over the last year or so, because it is fairly serious. I mean, they did manage to get a mental health law of some sort to get through with the legislative not so long ago. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it is an issue. When people have mental issues, they're isolated. They perhaps don't have anybody to communicate with. And I don't think enough attention is given to mental health, because it's not something which is visible, and
Yeah.
it's something which a lot of people can conceal, and they can, keep it, if you like, to themselves. And that's probably one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, I mean, World War One brought us the concept of shell shock. I
Hmm.
think this particular situation will make a lot of inroads towards getting mental health out there and talked about.
Hmm.
There's even been studies that indicate that just talking to somebody for a few minutes at a time, even if it's on the phone or Zoom or anything like that, does provide relief for a lot of people. So, reach out to whoever you can, talk, even if it's about the weather or
Sure.
anything else that takes your mind off of it. It does help. Call your relatives, call your parents, call your friends, call your customers, just, talk. That
Hmm.
really helps a lot. And I've had experiences where people call me and, say, "Hey, is everything all right?" and whatever. And that is always relieving to know that people care. It
Sure.
reminds me a lot
Absolutely.
of I don't know if you remember that famous interview with Fred Rogers, where he said, whenever there's a problem like this, I would look at the television and my mother would comfort me in saying, there might be calamity in life, there's disasters, there's war, but always look for the helpers. They're always out there running towards
Sure.
problems and
Hmm.
helping others. Just focus on the helpers.
Absolutely. Hey, I just want to get back to the app for a minute, because I just sort of opened mine up, and it says here record of recent check-ins for possible exposure. And it sort of started on yesterday, 12:08 p.m., 7:15 p.m., 11:46 p.m., and today at 3:46 a.m. I don't know where I was supposed to be then, and 7:46 a.m. this morning. So this is when it's checked in, but is it sort of activated if I'm close to somebody with another phone, or is it just because that seems to be an awful lot of, a sort of gap between check-ins, or
The reason for the gap is probably that you weren't in the presence of a lot of people. I mean,
mm,
you probably keep to yourself and, just run errands when absolutely necessary. So that's why probably you get a lot less, activity. I
mm,
haven't left my house almost at all in the past couple of weeks. So I also get like every 4 hours or so, the phone says that it probably called back, in this case, Apple for this
mhm.
iPhone, and said, no news is good news. I'm guessing.
Okay, I tell you what, somebody I wanted. This is another local app, because very close to where I go sometimes to meet up with friends is an automatic parking lot, which is operated by Panap Park. Just to let you know, because you go to register and it says, as I've got it all here, and as soon as you try to sign up, it says no internet connection, which is rubbish. So just to let you know that you can't register for your app, which is really quite annoying. So if there's anybody from Panapark who knows about the app, and that's on a Android phone, and you cannot sign up. And I've tried this. I've tried it where the parking space is. I've tried it everywhere. And as soon as you say sign up, no internet connection, which is rubbish because it's connected by Wi-Fi and LTE. So anyway, if
What
anybody's
that
listening,
might be is that the check for the internet connection just makes one check, which is can I ping the Panam Park server? And if I can't, I'm just going to say there's no internet connection. That's not necessarily the proper way. The proper way would be something like, okay, can I ping my internet provider? Yes. Can I ping a little bit further along the chain? Yes. Kind of like playing hopscotch, but with the internet connection. And if you can ping the internet, or you can ping Google or some other service that is resilient enough, but you can't reach your server, then you can give a more detailed message saying, I cannot contact the Panama server for whatever reason. Call this number or tell us at this email or whatever, and we'll look into it. That would be the proper way. Unfortunately, that's not the case, as
And
I
they
can
don't
see.
give you a number to contact anyway. It's just done like this. You sign up and log in. Says you can log in with Facebook. Perhaps I should try doing that. But yeah, which is frustrating because it's right next to where I want to go. And they've got a few around town, and I thought that could be quite useful. But if you can't register, well, try Facebook. Then they'll know where I'm parking all the time. So they'll
Maybe
be showing
they'll offer you a discount coupon for a nearby restaurant or something like that.
Hey, that reminds me. I haven't got it on this computer. I have now. Firefox. They came out recently, sent a message saying, by the way, we will jam Facebook from getting any information from your surfing, because apparently they say when you're surfing on the internet, Facebook is collecting information all the time. And I've tried it. It's come off a few times. By the way, we blocked Facebook from this, from getting your information. That's interesting.
It is, in the sense that, for example, when you have a website, let's say pbcpanama.com, you can insert what's called a Facebook pixel, which lets Facebook know when people, for example, go to your website and tie that information to them to say, oh, this person has good taste. They listen to The Breakfast Show, and then they offer them ads for things that they might enjoy. So that's that.
They're collecting information without my consent.
That is
that's when I'm on my web browser, because it just and they are collecting information from my web browser of what I'm doing. That is none of their goddamn business, and they're taking information without my consent.
When that happens, you need to tell that website, hey, you know what? I'd rather you not tell Facebook when I'm visiting your website for whatever reason, and maybe get them to stop that, because it's the website that's providing it to them.
I'd be here all day trying to tell all these people not to give my information. I mean, it is wrong. I mean, I don't mind certain, because you sign into this thing when you sign the terms and conditions with Facebook, but I don't sign the terms and conditions for them to know that what I'm doing when I'm not on Facebook.
That is correct. Although, again, it's not Facebook collecting the information. It's Facebook receiving the information that the website you're logging into is sharing with them.
Website is giving my information to Facebook without my consent.
Exactly. Unless they have some sort of terms and conditions page where they say, by the way, every time you browse our website, there's cookies involved, and those cookies might be from third parties, including Facebook and Google and Twitter and Instagram and so on and so forth. So we need to read the terms and conditions.
Firefox does it for you.
Oh yeah, Facebook will just plainly say, no, I'm not gonna, access Facebook to tell them that you're accessing pbcpanama.com, for example. I'm just not going to tell them. I'm not going to respect that directive, because I have been told by my user that that's not something my user wants to share. It's a shame that browsers have to step in and do this. It's kind of the same controversy that's going around, because Apple is going to warn you when you browse websites that do this or run applications that do this, because there are some apps out there that will also share information about what you're doing with the app with partners like Facebook or Google. And Apple is going to start saying, hey, by the way, this application that you're using is requesting to tell Facebook or to tell Google or to tell somebody else that you're using the website, and you're going to have a chance to say, no, I don't want that. And of course, Facebook is not too happy about that, because they are in the business of selling information, and you're basically putting a chokehold on how they access that information, which is kind of what happened with the Australia thing. I don't know if
Well, yeah,
you're,
that's quite interesting.
yeah,
I mean,
which is,
somebody did actually make a good comment saying, on the side of the technology company, saying, well, it's pretty ridiculous because in that case, they should make the car manufacturers pay the music stations whenever they sell you a car with a radio in it.
that's a good point. For example, if you look at all the sides of the discussion, for example, Facebook was faced with paying Australian news organizations for showing the content that people shared regarding articles in those news websites. And Facebook said, "What? I'm going to have to pay for content that other people shared? Then I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let them share." So if you tried to share an Australian website's link on your Facebook page, they would just not let you and say, "I'm sorry, if I let you share that, I'm going to have to pay for that. So no," which is interesting because now the shoe's on the other foot. Now, the thing is, I don't mind that Facebook, for example, would share like the pictures and the title and some of the lines of an article that I shared, because that usually means that persons might click on that and go to my website. So I get a benefit out of that. The thing is, people were just looking at the headlines and a little blurb of text or whatever and not going to the website. So the websites were feeling that they were losing out. My take on that is, if a picture and a title and a little bit of the article is not getting people to click on your website to go there, I don't know what will, really, unless they really enjoy your content. And if they do, they probably don't depend on Facebook anyway to, show you the content or anything like that. So
Surely
it's Mhm.
these sort of news outlets, say like an Australian newspaper, for example, has their website or whatever, and Facebook or one of the other people that Google or whatever is, when somebody does a search, is taking you to an article from that newspaper's website. They're introducing somebody to that website, which is, and of course, if the newspapers want to get around it, they do what a lot of newspapers is doing: make you sign a subscription.
Yeah.
And they can give you a link. You can get a link to their information on the website. And if you're not subscribed, it pops up with a note saying that if you want to see this article, you need to subscribe, which I think is much more sensible than making the likes of, not that I'm a big friend of Facebook or whatever, but I think that's more logical. You're driving somebody to that newspaper's website, which somebody perhaps wouldn't have bothered looking at in the first place. And then when they get there, if it is a subscription, they have the opportunity of subscribing in order to get much more information. But then, of course, if it's only a one-off hit, they're not likely to. But the newspaper is protecting themselves from that information getting out. Or if the newspaper wants to have it open so people can read the article or whatever, then there's a good chance that they may keep coming back to check things out. So I think it's a little bit of cutting your nose off to spite your face, to be perfectly honest.
I think so too. But newspapers have the right to do business as they see fit, and shoot themselves in the foot.
Make it a general subscription service, and the problem is solved.
Yeah, and the subscription doesn't even have to charge actual money for it. Just there's ads, there's some added value that you can provide that people will say, it's worth my time to actually visit this. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the 21st century to how to make this a viable business without, again, cutting your nose off to spite your face.
I mean, I quite like, in actual fact, the way that, because we have the subscription to La Prensa we've had for years now. And sometimes I've gone to a computer which hasn't been logged in, and I'm looking through, and they come and say, by the way, you've read 5 of the 10 articles that you're allowed to read. I thought, that makes sense, because you're letting me look at certain items to get me a feel as to whether the information on that newspaper is relevant to me and whether I want to. And then if I want to, then you can pay the subscription fee.
And even more so, not only is the information relevant to me, but is the writing style what something I enjoy? Because I, for one, for example, wouldn't subscribe to a couple of websites I've seen where, the news is all full of typos and there's no fact checking and things like that. I wouldn't subscribe, but, reasonably, good media, I'll definitely subscribe if it helps them in any way, because they are providing a service.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Oh, well, I think we covered a few points during the course of this morning. Anything new on the horizon in tech that's exciting?
Well, here in Panama, I don't know if I mentioned this, but there will be a new brand coming into Panama soon for mobile phones. It's called Techno Mobile. In fact, let me just show you for a second. I'll be right with you.
I'm impressed. That was quite quick, Alex.
Oh yeah, I just had to go to my.
Are you out of breath?
A little bit. So yeah, this is the Techno Mobile Spark 6. It's their newest model, and they are shooting for the mid-range. That like the A series for Samsung and the K series for LG and so on. They are shooting for the mid-range, where they have phones that have pretty good characteristics, CPU, RAM, the elegance and whatever, but at reasonable prices. So I'm going to be doing an unboxing on my social media later on, so keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Where do they originate from?
They are from China, just like Xiaomi and Huawei and all those others.
How come the likes of Xiaomi, and this one you're talking about now, how come that they haven't been banned from Google?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Getting on a little bit of this is what I think really, to be perfectly honest, is pretty unfair, because, look, it all started because of Huawei's 5G, okay? And the United States said, no, we're not going to have that. That's fine. If you don't want to use their 5G, don't use it. But to me, it's a little bit like the issue over Cuba. To me, the embargo of Cuba from the United States is an embargo of spite. This goes back to the days of the Kennedy thing. And I think this is the same thing with Huawei. What is your dislike or not wanting to use their 5G? What on earth has got to do with their telephone side of the business and utilizing Google? It's just, then why is it applied to Xiaomi? Why is it not applied to Sparky or wherever they are?
Well, the way I see it is, we live in a society, to quote the Joker, where we have all the tools that we need in order to reverse engineer stuff. And if there were some sort of a smoking gun out there where you could say, hey, there's this security issue and we want to look into it, and this is wrong for these reasons or whatever, they should just come out and say it and show it and say, hey, here's the code that has implications that have to do with security and so on. Let's work on that, and let's get rid of that, or let's block them until they stop doing this. But Alex, then why are you building your iPhones in China? Because it's cheaper.
Come on. If we know they're reverse engineering, why are we giving them the technology in the first place?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think, again, this is these discussions about commercial embargoes or whatever are way above my pay grade. I don't understand them. I wish they would go away, because I think it stifles innovation. But unfortunately, it's not for me or anybody that I know to decide. So we try to make do with what we have.
Well, that's it. But I just, I'm one of these people that deals pretty much with logic. And I don't see the logic where it applies to one and doesn't apply to the other. And again, I don't see the logic in banning a good company. I mean, Huawei is a good company. They make good kit.
Yeah, they do.
If they want to listen to my telephone conversations or whatever, they'll fall asleep. They'll be snoring in 5 seconds. I mean, that's a risk that I must take.
And you should be able to choose to take if you
It's not
wanted
up
to.
somebody else to tell me that I can't use Huawei because they can't get access to Google. I just don't think it's right.
What they did do, however, is to spin off their cellular phone division, and it's now Honor. So you will soon be able to purchase Honor phones in Panama, just like you can in the U.S. and have been able to for some time. I don't know if you remember that Huawei has this sub-brand called Honor. They're going to be in Panama as well, so you're going to be able to buy Honor phones with Google Apps and everything on them. And
Isn't that silly?
it is.
It
is.
It's not the Huawei, but it's called a different thing, so that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoever's thinking about these embargoes and whatever, I don't know. Maybe they don't know a hawk from a handsaw, to quote the bard.
Me neither. Alex, we got to go because we come at the top of the hour. As always, great chatting to you. And
Great to be
looking
here.
Forward to seeing you on TV.
Words I never thought I'd hear from anybody else but my mom, but sure. As long as it's not in the police reports, I'm good with that. Or the obituaries.
Oh yeah, please, no. Well, look, you take care. As always, great chatting with you, and love talking about tech. And I'm looking forward to when you come back in the studio, and I can show off my because you still haven't seen my thingy.
E-paper. Well, I haven't seen your thingy. I think the lawyers would have a field day with
I love this thing. It's so organized. I don't have paper all over the studio. I don't have. I've got my workshop manual for my car on here as well.
Oh,
So if I go down my car, I take it down. I can check it all out. It's amazing. And I'd never come across them until not so long ago. Anyway, I digress because I've got to go because it's news time. Alex, thank you so much, and speak to you next week.
you
All
too.
right. Talk to